Hey guys, Brandon Wren here, Nashville basis, coming to you with a new video. Today's video is going to be a review of a new pedal I required from Singular Audio, and that would be this pedal right here. Yeah. All right guys, this is the Tubedrve from Singular Audio. It is a fantastic pedal. This is the pedal I've been searching for the better part of a decade. Now, I haven't been searching for this specific pedal for close to a decade, but I've been searching for a pedal that does what this does for that long. And man, I am so happy that I finally found it. These things are starting to kind of get a little bit of attention out there, but still not a lot. It is a newer pedal, but it does seem to be gaining some traction, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I did a review a couple years back now of the Union Tube and Transistor Lab pedal, their compressor pedal. And about the time I did a review of that, it was starting to kind of catch on. And now that pedal's become kind of a sought after pedal. Even though there's still a lot of people that don't know about it, it's gaining a lot of momentum, and for good reason. I think it's gonna be the same with this pedal. This thing is absolutely fantastic. So what is this pedal? This is a Tubedrve. This is a pedal that has a nice tube in it to give us that nice tube warmth. We can use it just to get that tube warmth, or we can actually drive it and get some nice tube breakup. It sounds incredible, and it just really adds a lot to the character and color of your sound. For me, like I said, I've been looking for something similar to this for a long time. I wanted a nice overdrive pedal. Most of the overdrive pedals that I find were just a little bit too gnarly. You know, it was like there was no subtlety to them if you wanted them to be a little more subtle. And it seemed far and few between that I came across a pedal that I could, you know, turn the gain down, but still get a good saturation of that tube type sound. And man, did I finally find it in this pedal. So who is this geared towards? This is for anybody that can plug into this pedal. It's not just for bass, it's for bass, guitar. People have put this on keys, synth, all sorts of instruments. I've seen it put on like drum loops. It sounds great on all that stuff. And that's kind of what it's built for. It's kind of built to be kind of a tube pre, a studio tube pre, but they've condensed it and put it into this pedal form. Now, Singular Audio has a few different versions of their Tubedrve, or what I would call their Tubedrve line. They've got some studio rack mount versions. They have a couple of different 500 series versions, and they're all a little bit different, and those kind of have some bells and whistles that this doesn't. But what they did was they kind of took the essence of those units and put it into pedal form. And they've given us a really, really great product. So this can be for anybody. For bass players, me being a bass player, that's what I bought it for. What could this be for you? This could be an overdrive pedal. This could be just a nice, really good sounding overdrive pedal. This can also be something to add some tube warmth. Let's say that you're running a pedal board and you like everything on your pedal board, and you like the preamp DI that you're using, but you're missing a little bit of that kind of tube warmth. Well, you can throw this in the mix and you've got that tube warmth. So any pedal that you like, you can pair up with this. And if that pedal you're using is not a tube pedal, you can now throw this in the mix and get that nice tube sound, that nice tube amp, tube pre sound. And that's kind of what I'm doing. For me, this is gonna be kind of an always on pedal, and I see me using this 98% of the time in two different configurations. One where I've got the drive down just a little bit and I'm getting more of a clean tube sound, and one where I've got that drive up just a little bit to get that little bit of extra crispiness around the edge, help things sit better in the mix, punch through, give it a little more character, just a little tiny bit of breakup. So that's kind of my use for this pedal. So this is going to be kind of an always on. I bought this for both live and studio. A big part of why I bought this was for studio stuff. I knew it was going to be great to give me just that little bit of extra character, that extra flavor, that extra color in the studio, depending on what I'm using. I've used this on my pedal board. This stays on my pedal board, but I've got it set up to where I can run, I can bypass my preamp and go to one of my studio pre's that I use, one of which is the Avalon U5. So when I pair this up with the Avalon U5, it is absolutely fantastic. We all know the Avalon is a great studio preamp. And it does have some tone shaping abilities, but it's a clean pre. It's got a lot of headroom, but it's very, very clean. It's very, very punchy. Now we can throw this in the mix and get that nice, clean, punchy tone of the Avalon, but give it a little bit of tube color. And it, like I said, it sounds absolutely incredible. The same with my live rig. The preamp that I'm using live sounds absolutely phenomenal. I use the SGT DI from Ampeg. I've been very impressed with it, and it has stayed on my board as my main touring DI pedal, preamp pedal. And as good as it sounds, this just gives it a whole new flavor with a little bit of tubeness. So where I can get those nice Ampeg sounds, the B15 tones, the SVT tones, since that pedal, it gives me those tones, but you're still kind of lacking that tube type sound. Although it sounds very, very good. But now, like I said, I can throw this in the mix with that and get that kind of tube saturation, and it is absolutely incredible. So that's kind of what I'm using it for, and that's what I see maybe a lot of people using it for. But you can just use it as a nice overdrive pedal, and it is one of the best overdrive pedals on the market, in my opinion. I looked at a lot of different overdrive pedals to try to get what I was going for. A couple of the ones I was looking at the 805 drive from Seymour Duncan, and where it's a guitar pedal, a lot of people are using it on bass and it sounds great. It is a great overdrive pedal, but that's kind of what it sounds like, is an overdrive pedal. And I was looking for something in pedal form that didn't necessarily sound like an overdrive pedal, if that makes sense. I wanted it to sound like a tube amp. I wanted it to sound like a nice tube pre. And if you know what I'm saying, there is a difference between an overdrive pedal and the breakup of a tube amp. They just sound different. And whereas the 805 sounds incredible, it does sound more like a pedal. The next one I was looking at, the one that it came down between this one and that one, was the Substance pedal from that company that I still don't know how to pronounce. I don't know if it's F Teletronica, if it's FT Electronica, if it's Teletronica. I've heard it so many different ways. That company, they make ridiculously good products, ridiculously good pedals, so many good pedals, but they've got one called the Substance, and it's a bass overdrive. And I looked at that real heavy, and it sounds great. It does have a little bit of that tube type warmth, but it's just not quite on the level of this as far as getting that tube sound. But it's still a great sounding overdrive pedal. But I decided to go with this, and after doing some research, I decided to order one. Now these are made in Amsterdam. They do ship them to you very quickly. I got one within just a few days. Shipping was free. Now you have to buy these from the company. There's no really no real secondary place you can buy these unless you find them in the used market, which there's not really a used market for these that I've seen. But you can order these direct from the company. Like I said, they get here quick. It's free shipping. I think it's reasonably priced. You may not agree. It just depends on how much you're willing to spend on pedals. For me, I don't look at this as just an overdrive. I look at it as like a tube amp in a box, or a tube pre in a small pedal box, which is what it is. So taking that into consideration, I think this is a great steal for what you can get it for. This goes for about 289 euros, which translates to about $320 US. And you do have to pay some import fees. I think it was like $15 import fee. But for, you know, 230, maybe 240, or sorry, $330, $340 out the door, I think this is a great price point for what you are getting. This thing is incredible. So if you're wanting to get one, I would say jump on it pretty quickly, because they do go very quick. These are made in small batches, and once they put a new batch out, they are going super quick. I tried to buy one time and they were out of stock. Then they came back in stock and I was like, oh, I'll buy it in a couple days. For whatever reason, I just put it off. When I went back to buy it in a couple days, they were out of stock again, and I had to wait about 2 weeks for them to get some more built. So as soon as they came back into stock, I jumped on one. I think I probably got the first one out of the new batch that they made. And within 2 days, they were all gone again. So these do go very quickly. I don't know how many they're making at a time, but they are going very quickly. So if you want one, I would jump on it and get it as quick as possible. If you see them in stock, don't hesitate. Go ahead and buy one. It's definitely worth the money. It's definitely worth the time. This thing is absolutely incredible. So let's talk about the different features, and then we'll jump over and give you some sounds. So if you look at the pedal here, we've got a drive knob, we've got this bias knob, and we've got this output or out knob. These are pretty self-explanatory. Your drive is how much drive you're using, how much breakup you're wanting to get. The output knob is kind of your volume. That's your overall volume that you're sending out from the pedal. This bias knob is really, really cool. So the noon position is kind of what I would say neutral. I'm not going to say flat, but it's more of a neutral position. Somewhere in that noon position is kind of neutral. As you go counterclockwise, you get what they call asymmetrical clipping, and it just, the way it reacts with the tube and the frequencies that it's boosting, it's kind of asymmetrical. So as you turn it counterclockwise, you're kind of boosting the higher frequencies a little bit, but not the lower frequencies. But as you go counterclockwise, it gets more fuzzy, more spitty. It's like, I don't know how to describe it. I would call it some sort of a stutter. Not that it's a sharp stutter, but there's just an asymmetrical clipping going on. And when you hear it, you'll understand it. It's hard for me to explain. I'm not very technical when it comes to that stuff. But you're gonna get more of a spitty, fuzzy type sound, sometimes similar to a fuzz pedal. As you go clockwise, your tone is gonna stay symmetrical in its clipping, and your tones are gonna be a little more smooth. So this way, more fuzzy, more spitty. Clockwise, more smooth, more full. Everything's gonna be enhanced at the same rate, both of your low frequencies and your higher frequencies. I think you can get some cool sounds when you go counterclockwise with that asymmetrical clipping. But for me, most of the time I'm gonna be using this with those smoother, kind of fuller, richer tones. That's what I'm looking for. I found for me that kind of that somewhere between that 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, usually that 2 o'clock position seems to kind of be the sweet spot when you have it in triode mode, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And that's kind of where I keep it and leave it. And then I can adjust my drive and output around that, and that kind of stays where it is. But it does give you some options depending on what you're looking for, so that's always great. Let's move to these little toggle switches. So with the toggle switches, you've got this first one, it's labeled tri or pent. So that's triode or pentode. And that will determine how you're kind of driving this tube. In triode mode, your sounds are going to be a little more rich, a little more smooth. The overdrive, the clipping, the gain's not going to be quite as gnarly. As you turn that up, you can turn this and crank it out, and you can get a nice, pretty hefty overdrive when you've got this, cranked up quite a bit. But it's still pretty smooth and rich in what it gives you. I like between that noon to 2 o'clock position, somewhere in that 1:30 position, I think is a great overdrive sound. It gives you just enough to kind of give you that little bit of extra grit, but not too much. You can still get the natural tone, the natural sound and punch of the bass. And you're not really losing any low end or anything like that. So that's kind of where I like it. It just gives me kind of that little extra bit of grit. Now I do like cranking it up and getting some overdrive when I need it, and it sounds absolutely phenomenal. This thing is an incredible sounding overdrive. But you can get just that little bit to color it just enough. And if you want to, you can turn the drive down some, in that 11 o'clock position, maybe even 9 o'clock position, boost your output to make up for the volume difference. And now it just kind of stays clean, and you've got just that nice, punchy, clean, tube saturated sound. It really is incredible. I can't say enough about it, but that triode mode is kind of where you want to leave it if you just want the nice tube saturation, maybe just a little bit of overdrive. If you switch this into pentode mode, it's going to get a lot more aggressive very quickly. Once you pass that noon position with the drive knob, you're getting into pretty heavy overdrive territory. Now, getting up into that territory, that's more than I generally would need for anything. It's nice to have that, but for me personally, I'm not big on a lot of overdrive or a lot of distortion. It's just not something I use very often. So for me, I'm going to leave it in triode mode unless I need a little bit more of an aggressive sound for whatever reason, maybe something in the studio. But you do get a lot more overdrive when you're in that pentode mode. And the way that this reacts is the same, but there again, this is more aggressive too in the clipping and however you use it. If you want to go counterclockwise and make it a little smoother, or clockwise and make it a little smoother, or counterclockwise and get more of that spitty sound. But there again, it's pretty aggressive. I believe Singular Audio, I think it was one of their videos, it may have been somebody else doing a review on this pedal, that said kind of the 4 o'clock position with this bias knob when you're in pentode mode is kind of the sweet spot. I would kind of agree. That kind of does seem to be the sweet spot, but there again, even 2 o'clock sounds really good. So I'm generally going to leave that in the 2 o'clock position. But there again, I'm probably rarely ever going to go into that pentode mode. Like I said, it is nice to have it there, and you'll hear that when we jump over and do some of the sounds here in a minute. This little switch over here is labeled boost and off. Above boost, in parentheses, it says GTR, that's guitar. And in parentheses below the word off is line. So that's what they're calling line level. So if you're playing stringed instruments like bass, guitar, things like that, you're gonna want this in that boost mode. It gives you a plus 20 dB, but it gives you the volume and the output that you're needing for those type of instruments. So me on bass, this is going to stay in that boost mode. When you put it in this off mode down here, line level mode, this is gonna be for synths, keys, things like that. That's gonna be more of what that's for. So depending on what instrument you're playing will determine where you have that selected. But like I said, for your stringed instruments, guitars, bass, things like that, you're gonna want it in that up position. Other than that, we've got our input, our output. We've got our 9-volt DC right here. This is at 300 milliamps. So you can run this off of pedal power, which is always fantastic. So make sure that you're running it in an output jack off of your pedal power that's at least 300. It can be more, but it needs to be at least 300. If not, you're gonna damage this pedal. So make sure it's marked at least 300 or up. For the particular pedal power unit that I'm using right now, I didn't have a 300 that was available, but I had another 500 that was available. So that's what this is plugged in. So like I said, it can be more than 300, but it has to be at least 300 to give the proper voltage, the proper power to this. Otherwise, you can damage this thing pretty quickly. That's about it. You've got these screws here where you can take the back off to replace the tube. This is running a 6AS6 tube. So I'm not a very knowledgeable tube guy, but from what I understand, a 6AS6 tube is going to be a tube that can give you a lot of nice, clean, punchy tone, but can give you some breakup too. So from what I've read and what I've seen, the tube that they decided to go with in this is pretty much what you would want in something like this. You do have these vents here so you can see the tube. When this is on, obviously your LED will light up, but as you're hitting that tube, every time you hit it, it glows. So it's really cool looking on a dark stage. But you can see that you're hitting that tube every time that you play something on your instrument. It's really, really cool looking. The tube is socketed, so if you need to replace it, it's very easy to replace. There again, you just take off the back, you pop the tube out, pop the new one in, and you're good to go. Very, very simple to replace these tubes. You can replace these tubes with any 6AS6 tube or its Russian counterpart, and I can't remember. Let me see if the paper's in the box. I'm trying to remember what it said you could replace it with. Should have already known this. 6AS6, or its Soviet equivalent, the 6J2P, which I'm not too familiar with, but I guess the 6J2P is essentially a 6AS6 tube. It's just the Soviet version. And that's pretty much all there is to the pedal. You got your foot switch down here. It does not make that click like a lot of others do, but it is very positive feeling, and obviously you can tell it's on when that LED lights up. But pretty good build quality. I'm still trying to figure out what this material is. I'm pretty sure the back is metal that's been like coated. And I'm thinking this may be some type of coated metal as well, but it could be some sort of composite material. I'm not sure. Whatever it is, it's pretty lightweight. You know, this weighs probably about as much as a Boss pedal. I haven't picked up a Boss pedal in a long time, so it could be a little lighter. I'm not sure. But it's got a decent amount of heft to it for its size. I think it's a great looking pedal. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. So one thing that really impressed me about this pedal is how much juice it's pushing to that tube. A lot of times, different pedals with tubes in them, even a lot of your kind of tabletop tube pre's, are not pushing those tubes the way that they need to be pushed to get that sound like a tube amp. You know, a tube amp's gonna be pushing the tube at 230, 260, 300 volts at the plate. Whereas a lot of your pedals are gonna be pushing maybe 40, 60 volts at the plate. This thing pushes an incredible 230 volts at the plate in this small pedal. I don't know how they do it, but they've done it. And what that does is it drives the tube the way it needs to be driven to get that saturation, to get that tube sound, to get that breakup properly. This thing pushes it the way a tube amp pushes a tube. That's incredible. And that's what's gonna give you that nice, rich, harmonic tone. There again, I'm not very technically inclined, so I don't know how they do it. I had to kind of look up what it meant when it said at the plate. And I still can't explain it well, but just know this pushes this tube the way that it should be pushed. And that's what makes this thing special in my opinion. So let's go ahead and jump on over and give you some tones, and then we'll come back and do a quick outro. We'll see you here in just a second. All right, guys, that was the Tubedrve from Singular Audio. I hope you liked these sound samples. I tried to go through and give you a lot of different things and let you really hear the pedal. My videos tend to go on for a while and be long, but I like to go in depth about these products. And I feel like a lot of times you just don't get that. Now, this may be boring to you, and if so, I'm sorry, but if you're still here, I appreciate you watching the whole video. Like I said, I like to go in depth and let you see everything that I can show you to let you get a good idea of what these products are. And I think this thing is incredible. I think it's absolutely incredible. This is going to be a great studio piece. It's going to be great on the road. I've already used it once on the road, and it sounded fantastic. I've used this some here in my home studio to do some things, and so far it sounds great. I love the way this pairs up with all the gear that I've used it with. I think it goes great with something like the Avalon DI or the Avalon U5 DI. Where that Avalon has such crisp, clean, punchy sound, to throw in this to give a little bit of tube warmth or get a little bit of overdrive, it sounds absolutely killer together. These audio samples you heard was this paired with the Avalon. So if you liked any of those tones that I gave you, that's what I was going through. I essentially went through my pedal tuner, my Tubedrve pedal tuner, into my compressor pedal, and I'm not a fan of compressor pedals unless it's the right ones. I run the Union Tube and Transistor Lab pedal. I think it's the best, definitely in the top 2 best compressor pedals on the market. It sounds absolutely incredible. It's very LA2A-ish, and I use it just enough to give just a little bit of compression, but give me a little bit of character as well. So I'm running through that to this, to the Avalon. And that's my signal chain. Very, very simple. A little bit of compression, a little bit of drive, a little bit of rich tube sound, and then that nice, clean, punchy sound of the Avalon. That was what you're hearing today. So if you like what you heard, maybe you want to get you an Avalon U5 and get you one of these to pair up with it. It sounds absolutely incredible. For me, like I said, this is going to be an always on. This is going to be what I call kind of the center console portion of my pedal board. And that would consist of this, my compressor, and whatever preamp I'm using. That's kind of the base of my sound. And then everything else is built around that. And that's kind of the way that I approach things. I can throw in those extra bells and whistles, the octave pedals, the chorus pedals, if I need them. But this is going to be a base part of my sound. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Thank you for sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed the review. You'll be seeing this in the future. I may do some quicker reviews for like maybe some reels and stuff for this. So you may see some of that here in the future. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you like this pedal. Go get one. It's definitely worth it. I had not personally played one of these till I ordered it and got it through the mail. But I had heard it enough to know it's what I was looking for. And there's not very many videos out there. Singular Audio does some videos on this that they've got on their website and also on their YouTube channel. Only one of those is featuring bass, but that video alone kind of sold me on this pedal. There's maybe 1 or 2 other channels that have done a quick review on this out there, but there's not much. So I'm glad to get this review out to give people a little bit more information about what this is. But grab one, you won't be disappointed. If you're looking for something with tube warmth and some overdrive, some breakup, and natural kind of tube amp sound, this is going to be your go-to if you're looking for it in pedal form, 100%. I've been cabless for about 10 years now. Running in-ears, the technology of what we're getting with different preamp DI pedals is absolutely incredible. But sometimes you want some of that tube warmth and your DI pedal may not give it to you. So this is a great option to throw in with it. Anyway, guys, appreciate you guys watching. There again, I'm Brandon Wren, the Nashville bassist. Stay tuned for more content. Check out all my other content that I've already made, and we'll see you guys later.